So we will now proceed to the cognitive development of the preschoolers. We have here preschoolers symbolic and intuitive thinking. Symbolic substage from 2 to 4 years old and intuitive substage from 4 to 7 years old. Symbolic substage, this means children age 2 to 4 start using symbols like words, pictures, or pretend play to represent the real objects. This is where also children begin to use symbols to represent objects that are not physically present. For example, a child pretends a stick is a sword. The stick represents a real sword even if there is no real sword around. And they show progress through language development, drawing, and make-believe play. This stage is shown when kids start talking more, drawing things from imagination, and playing pretend roles like teacher, doctor, or mommy. And then we have here our intuitive substage. From 4 to 7 years old. Children age 4 to 7 use simple reasoning but not yet logical thinking. Children also begins using primitive reasoning and constantly ask why questions to understand the world. This is the stage where kids ask why over and over because they want to know how things work even if their answers are still incorrect or shallow. Next slide. The limitation of pre-operational thought. We have here first the animism. When we say animism, it is the belief that inanimate objects have lifelike qualities and actions. From the word inanimate, non-living things. Children think objects like toys or the suns have feelings. Example, the sun is hiding because it's shy. And then we have here egocentrism. When we say egocentrism, it's the inability to distinguish between one's own and another's perspective. From the word perspective, point of view, the child believes everyone sees and feels exactly how they do. They cannot imagine another person's viewpoint. And then third, we have centration and lack of conservation, believing that a taller baker holds more liquid. From the word conservation, understanding quantity stays the same even if appearance changes. Kids focus only on one feature, like height, and ignore width. They think a tall container has a more liquid even when both contain the same amount. And then fourth, we have here irreversibility, the inability to mentally reverse actions. They can't think backward. Example, if you roll a dough into a ball, they think it can never go back to a flat shape. And then fifth, we have transductive reasoning, jumping from one event to another without logical connection. Example, it rained because I didn't finish my food, or they connect unrelated events. And then lastly, we have attention limitation. Preschoolers are easily distracted by striking features. Anything colorful or exciting captures their attention immediately, even if it's irrelevant. And then we have curiosity and questioning, the endless why questions. Their brains are developing, and language helps them ask questions even if they can't understand complex answers. Kung makabantay mo mga bata, hilig kay mangutana. And then symbolic thought in action. Symbolic thought allows preschoolers to represent absent objects mentally. They can think about something even if it's not in front of them, like imagining their toy at home. They can also recall past experiences, imagine transformations, and engage in symbolic play. From the word transformation, changes in shape or form. They remember past events, imagine changes like box turning into a car, and pretend play using their imagination. Why? The brain connections in preschool years. Do you know ba nga sukad jud pagkaanak sa ato, we already developed many or billions of neurons, 50 billions of neurons to be exact. When we say neurons, brain cells. Okay? From the very start pa lang yun, a baby has already many brain cells. And by the age of 2, half of the lifetime, synaptic connections have formed. Synaptic connections. When we say synaptic connections, is the brain connections used for learning. Half of the children's learning pathway are ready. And at the age around 6, the brain develops pathways for sophisticated thinking. When we say sophisticated, advanced. At the age of 6, children can think more clearly, solve problems better, and understand more complex ideas. And next slide, we have the rule of the environment. First, a stimulating and supportive environment enhances brain growth. A home or school with play, learning, and explorations helps the brain development. And next, a stressful or unstimulating environment hinders brain development. From the word hinders, it slows down or stops. Trauma, stress, or boring routines slow cognitive growth. And then, next slide, we have language development. First, preschoolers' understanding of language develop faster than their ability to speak it. Children can understand more words than they can actually express. And then they begin mastering phonology, semantics, syntax, and pragmatics. So let us break down the terms. Phonology, sounds; semantics, word meanings; syntax, sentence structure; and pragmatics, social use of language. They are slowly learning how to use language correctly in different situations. Features of language development. Rapid vocabulary increases through fast mapping. This means that young children quickly learn new words by linking them to things that they already know. And fast mapping is when a child hears a new word once or twice and can guess its meaning fast, which helps them build their vocabulary rapidly. And then next, overgeneralization of rules like good, foot, and run. Children sometimes apply grammar rules too broadly. For example, instead of saying went, they would say good. Or instead of feet, they would say foots. And these happen because they are learning patterns and try to use them everywhere, even when it is incorrect. And then, rising tune to ask questions. Mother is coming. When young kids ask questions, they often change their voice to sound higher or rise at the end of a sentence. And in the example, the child is confirming if mother is coming. And by raising the tone, which shows how they use their voice to express questions. And then, they struggles with passive voice. Children find it hard to understand or use passive voice. Passive voice means the focus is on the object of an action rather than the person doing it. For example, instead of the dog chased the cat, passive voice would be the cat was chased by the dog, which is more complex for the children. And then we have better at maintaining conversation. As children grow, they get better at keeping a conversation going. And this means they can listen and respond appropriately, asking questions or making comments that relate to what others say. And then lastly, we have support for language growth. Caregivers can monitor these areas and seek help from speech pathologists for children with speech difficulties. Parents and adults should watch how children develop language skills. If a child has trouble speaking or understanding the language, caregivers should get help from a specialist called speech pathologist who can provide for a therapy. Language and social interaction of Vygotsky's theory. Private speech or inner speech. Children talk to themselves to plan, guide, or monitor behavior. According to Vygotsky, ang mga bata daw di often talk aloud to themselves, which helps them think through problems or actions. And that is called private speech. And this private speech is very important for learning and self-control. But Piaget saw it as egocentric. But for Vygotsky, he viewed it as a vital for thought development. Earlier, Piaget thought the children talking to themselves was just them, being self-centered and ignoring others. But for Vygotsky, he believed that this inner speech actually helps children develop complex thinking. And then we have here the zone of proximal development, or ZPD. Task too difficult for children to do alone, but achievable with guidance from adults or more skilled peers. the more knowledgeable other, or what he called IMKO. The ZPD means the range between what a child can do alone and what they can do with help. When someone more experienced, like a teacher or older child, called the IMKO, guides them, and the child can learn easier. And then we have here the term scaffolding, the gradual withdrawal of support as the child becomes more capable. Scaffolding means helping a child step by step, then slowly giving less hope as they get better so they can do things independently. And then the teachers and caregivers should guide the children within their ZPD to promote growth. Adults should focus on helping children learn tasks just beyond what they can do alone, and providing the right amount of support to help their development. And then we have here the information processing theory, attention, and memory. This model compares the child's mind to a computer that encodes, stores, and retrieves information. This theory says children's brains work like a computer. They take in information, encode, keep it, store, and use it later, retrieve. Preschoolers' attention span improve compared to toddlers. However, they are still easily distracted by striking details rather than focusing on relevant aspects. Young children pay attention better than toddlers, but can still get distracted by things that stand out instead of what's important. And then, memory. We have here short-term memory, or STM, that holds information for about 15 to 30 seconds unless rehearsed. Short-term memory is like a temporary storage that keeps info only for about half a minute unless the child repeats or practices it. And then we have here what we call long-term memory, or the LTM. It begins developing between ages 2 to 5, explaining why people rarely remember events before the age of 3. Long-term memories, where memories stick for a long time, starts developing around 2 to 5. This is why most people don't recall memories from very early childhood. And then we have here scripts, or the mental sequence for familiar routines. Scripts are mental guides children to create common routines, like what usually happens at schools, which helps them predict and understand events. And between ages of 5 to 7, children begin to memorize lists, facts, and applied learned knowledge. At this age, kids start to remember more detailed information like facts and lists and use what they learned more actively. And then we have older children use rehearsal and organization, improving memory efficiency. As children grow, they learn to repeat information and organize it in ways that make remembering easier and faster. And then cognitive connections. Preschoolers start linking new information to old knowledge. Example, using letters, sounds to read words. Young children learn better when they connect new ideas to things they already know, such as associating sounds of letters with reading words. And then, inconsistent memory performance is often due to lack of cues, not lack of ability. Sometimes, children forget because they do not get reminders or hints, not because they can't remember. Then, we have here the young children's theory of mind. Theory of mind, TOM, or TOM, refers to understanding that others have thoughts, beliefs, and emotions different from one's own. The theory of mind means recognizing that other people think and feel differently from you, which is important for social understanding. By age 2 to 3, children acknowledge mental states. I forgot my doll. I want my ice cream. At this age, children start talking about their thoughts and feelings, showing they understand they have their own mind. And by age of 3 to 5 years old, TOM, or the theory of mind, develops rapidly. Awareness of one's own thinking, understanding false beliefs, ability to deceive, distinguishing between appearance and reality, and differentiating fantasy from real life. Between the age of 3 and 5, children rapidly improve in knowing what they think, realizing that others can have wrong beliefs, learning to trick others, telling the difference between what looks real and what is real, and separating imagination from the reality. And then next we have on how the theory of minds develop. Social experiences are key, including early communication, imitation, make believe play, language interaction, and social relationships. So here are the summary of the preschoolers' cognitive development and language skills, specifically focusing on the children between the ages of 2.5 and 6 years old. Understanding this developmental milestone is crucial for caregivers and teachers to provide the best possible support and learning environment. So, our first area of focus is receptive language. When we say receptive language, it refers to the ability to understand information. Standard 1. The child understands both verbal and nonverbal forms of communication. 31 to 36 months or 3 to 4 years old. At this stage, children typically speak in simple sentences and can talk about events in a way that is generally understood by others. For example, a child might say, "I went park," and be able to elaborate slightly if asked, "What did you do at the park?" 37 to 48 months. As they approach 4 years old, children begins to use prepositions and plurals correctly. They also start using newly learned words appropriately in sentences and during group conversations. Furthermore, they begin to use past tense correctly. Example, instead of saying "I go," a child would say "I went." And they might also correctly use prepositions by saying, "The ball is under the table." 49 to 60 months or 4 to 5 years old. Nearing 5, children demonstrate narrative understanding by drawing and telling stories about their drawings. A child draws a picture of a family at the beach and tells a story about the building castles and swimming in the ocean. Second, we have pre-reading and pre-math skills. Next, let's discuss pre-reading and pre-math skills, which lay the foundation for academic success. Matching. Standard 2. Matches identical objects, colors, shapes, letters, and numbers. From 2 to 3 years, at this age, children can typically match objects and letters. Example, matching a red block to another red block or the letter A to another letter A. And from 3 to 4 years, children can now recognize logos and simple patterns. Example, recognizing the McDonald's logo or completing a simple ABAB pattern. Next, copying letters and numbers. Standard, writes and recognizes letters and numbers. 3 to 4 years, children can print uppercase letter with a model. Example, copying the letter A from a card. And then the 4 to 5 years old, they can now print their name and letters, numbers, though some reversals are common. Example, writing Sam or the number 3 possibly with the S or 3 written backward. And then 5 to 6 years old, by this age, children can typically write correctly without a model. Example, writing their name and simple words without needing to copy them. Third, cognitive development. We will explore different facets of cognitive development, which is vital for problem solving and learning. And first, we have attention and activity level. Standard, maintains focus and manages activity. From 3 to 4 years, children can focus for about 10 minutes. Example, paying attention during a short story or completing a simple puzzle. And from 4 to 5 years, their attention span increases to 15 to 20 minutes. Example, engaging in a slightly longer activity like building a tower or listening to a chapter of a book. And then by 5 to 6 years, children can work independently. Example, completing a task or activity without constant supervision or help. And concept formation. Standard, understand quantity, time, and grouping. 3 years, children can count from 1 to 5 and sort by a size or color. Example, counting 5 blocks or sorting toys into groups or red and blue. 4 years old, they understand the concepts of more and less. Example, identifying which group of object has more items. And for 5 years old, children know yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Example, understanding the sequence of days and using the terms correctly. 3 years, they can complete simple patterns. Example, filling in the missing shape in a pattern. 4 years, children understand roles and consequences. Example, knowing that if they hit a friend, they will have to say sorry or have time out. And memory, standard, remembers people, events, and lessons. 3 years, children can recall past experiences. Example, remembering a trip to the zoo. Or 4 years, they can memorize rhymes and story details. Example, reciting a simple nursery rhyme or remembering what happened at the beginning of a story. And then from 5 to 6 years, children can now recite days, months, and lessons after a few days. Example, naming the months of the year or recalling information from a science lesson. And then we have logical reasoning. Standard, thinks in order and solves problem. From 3 to 4 years, children can identify opposites and tell stories in a sequence. Example, knowing that up is the opposite of down or narrating a story from the beginning to end. And for 4 to 5 years old, they can predict endings and understand simple math ideas. Example, guessing what will happen next in a story or understanding that adding one apple to another results in two apples. And then we have planning and organizing. Standards. Plans familiar activities. 3 years. Children plan with adult help. Example, deciding what to play with and how with guidance from a caregiver. 4 years, they can follow organized routines. Example, participating in a structured classroom schedule. 5 years, children can plan independently. Example, deciding on their own what to do during the free play. And then we have creative thought. Standard, creates new ideas or art. 3 years, children engage in a pretend play. Example, pretending to be a superhero or a doctor. 4 years, they make up songs and jokes. Example, singing a silly song or telling a simple joke. And for 5 to 6 years, children draw imaginary or fantasy scenes. Example, drawing a picture of a dragon or a spaceship. And then we have cognitive flexibility. Standard, adjust thinking and actions. 3 to 4 years, children can change plans and explore solutions that they adapt easily. Example, switching from playing with blocks to playing with cars or finding a new way to solve a puzzle. And fourth, rules of the caregivers and teachers. So to effectively support preschoolers' development, caregivers and teachers should 1. Provide play-based and stress-free learning environment. 2. Avoid placing academic pressure on children. 3. Encourage exploration, talking, and imagination. For the 3 years olds, first, you talk often using short sentences. Read them stories and count objects together. Introduce the simple science concept like plants and magnets. And engage in singing, dancing, and play. For the 4 years old babies, read daily and encourage them storytelling. Sort and count objects together. Use spatial words such as in, under, and beside. And allow them to plan small activities. For the 5 years old babies, use dramatic reading, writing activities. Encourage them what-if questions to stimulate creative thinking. Practice writing letters or notes. And support their curiosity and creative play. The cognitive and language development of preschooler is a multifaceted process. By understanding the milestone and actively supporting their growth through play-based learning encouragement and tailored activities, caregivers and teachers can significantly contribute to the children's development. And so that's it for the discussion of the cognitive development of the preschoolers, and I will see you again next time for the discussion of the cognitive development of the intermediate schoolers. Again, thank you. Bye-bye.